time is a beautiful time of year. You can see it just looking out the window. You can see it in the faces of all the people around us. Merry Christmas. Reverend Steve will be leading our service this evening, and I invite him to come up for the evening. Welcome.
It's a rare church that would stop on a Christmas Eve service, the probably the most Judeo-Christian of traditions, and pause and acknowledge that some wrongs were done in the process of becoming the town of Billerica and landing us here at First Parish. And we want to acknowledge always that our principles, in part, were violated by the starting of an institution like this, and we intend on moving forward as best we can to honor the principles by honoring indigenous paths and the voices that have largely been lost from churches, around the country. So that's my lane of acknowledgement tonight. Our chalice words come from Gary Kowalski, and Rebecca's going to light those for us. Gary Kowalski was a minister in Vermont, says, "In this moment of half light, half shadow, the glow of candlelight and starlight, we are really able to look out upon the world, not with the eyes of day, but with another kind of vision. The illumination of faith, not just sight. The twilight where edges soften, harsh outlines begin to gentle, and peace descends on all. May it be so." In this season, our Christmas season overlaps with Hanukkah, as it often does. And Jacob is going to come share some Hanukkah words as he lights the Hanukkah candles, bringing us up to date.
She'asa nisim lavotenu bayamim hahem azman hazeh.
Thank you, Trek. And for those of us who just entered the sanctuary, know this is not a synagogue or a temple. This is Christmas Eve, and we want to honor all traditions here. I invite you all to stand as you're willing and able, or stand in spirit, if not embody those at home as well, and join in us with the first two voices of Joy to the World, 245 in your hymnals. 245. Okay, we snuck in an extra verse. You can please be seated. Welcome to Christmas Eve service. Thank you for being here. If you're a regular here, you might begin to notice or remember that it's kind of my instinct to be fairly practical about spirituality. I haven't been here too long, so you haven't felt the burden of that completely yet. But no more does that apply to Christmas. I'm not sure where it comes from, but trust me, it's instinctive. In the spirit of the holiday season, I think we can really only ask that it change us for a moment or two and generally lift our mood a bit. Many of us here struggling with many very serious life issues, have lost dear family members, have been sick with COVID. But I think we can say that what's going on in our lives is always more important than the holidays. Sometimes we feel like we should feel the pressure to be joyful the entire season. And so I'm pragmatic, and I believe that our lives pass through the holidays like cars do exits on a highway, right? Your life is the most important thing. And we really can't control that we pass through Christmas at any particular right time in our lives. Seasons come when they come, of course. and we choose to pay whatever level of attention to them that we do. The fact that they come is inevitable. What we pick up as we travel through them is up to us. And I believe that it is certainly at least a small part of our spiritual journey to glean something from this twinkly, beautiful, dare I say, magical time of year. So let's set our expectations low. Let's try to find some moments in the holiday. And I think it's foolish not to enjoy the holidays for what they are. So given that the events in our lives trump, and I apologize for using a permanently spoiled word, any holiday season that we may happen to be in, we know that Christmas won't last long, nor will Hanukkah. Consider the pressure off and enjoy this beautiful evening. Now join me in hymn number, the first Noel, number 237, the first Noel in your books, 237. We're going to get through a lot of hymns, so we're going to sing just brief parts of them. 237. Stand as you are willing and or able. Thank you. Noel is a short, I just think about the people who were creating the hymnals and doing carols early on. Think of them as rappers. And they just shrunk that word because it's now all is well. That's what Noel stands for. Trek's going to come up and read a Christmas prayer by Maureen Killeran here for us.
Not gold, not myrrh, nor even frankincense would I have for you this season, but simple gifts, the ones that are hardest to find. Too close to the mic. The ones that are perfect, even for those who have everything, if such there be. I would, if I could, have for you the gift of courage, the strength to face the gauntlets only you can name, and the firmness in your heart to know that you, yes, you, can be a bearer of the quiet dignity that is the human glorified. I would, if by my intention I could make it happen, have for you the gift of connection, the sense of standing on the hinge of time, touching past and future, standing with certainty that you, yes, you, are the point where it all comes together. I would, if wishing could make it so, have for you the gift of community, a nucleus of love and challenge, to convince you in your soul that you, yes, you, are a source of light in a world too long believing in the dark. Not gold, nor myrrh, nor even frankincense would I have for you this season, but simple gifts, the ones that are hardest to find, the ones that are perfect, even for those who have everything, if such there be. Amen.
Let's just pause for a minute with some of those beautiful words. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, it is us that are called to be much of what we have faith in. It's a very, it's burdensome in many ways, or one phrase, but we are all called to be the bearer of the quiet dignity that is the human glorified. Does that make sense? We're called to be the best of what we can be. It is our spiritual calling in this faith, in all faiths, but in particular this faith, to be the best you can be. And your salvation and your sort of work and all of it kind of comes together with that compelling thought. And I'll leave you with that. Which is a great segue to Come All Ye Faithful, which is 253 in our hymnal, 253. And again, we'll just sing a flavor of the song. Let us find a still spot in our heart. I want you to imagine the sort of twinkling lights you can probably see through your closed eyelids. So come, Christmas, most needed of seasons. Come with the reminder that love does not depend on perfection, but on willingness to risk connection. Come unto the unready manger of our hearts, that we may feel the warmth of new life, and give flesh to the promise of hope that cries to bring healing into our world. Come, come Christmas, love, come hope, be born in our unready hearts on this silent and holy night. Let's pause in this silent and holy night. We've reached the night. This is the offertory, so be prepared to liberate yourself from your economic well-being. We've reached the night when we're asked to pause in our lives in the busyness to wonder if Joseph had bothered to call ahead, or if Mary had universal health care, would Jesus have been born in a manger? And if so, how many hymns would need editing? Tonight we invite ourselves to wonder, instead of 3 wise men, there had been 3 wiser women, they would have likely arrived in time for the birth and brought some more practical gifts than hard to pronounce spices. And in that spirit of among the holiest of nights, we ponder, did they keep the receipt? And that's all fine and funny, but truthfully, this is the night when we're asked to do nothing but that let the lights kind of come in and love us. And we're going to pass our offertory plate. And we're going to think about the people in the Billerica Food Pantry who need it, one of the many allies in our community that care for those in need. Let us do that. We do that in silence for those who are not at this moment warm on this very cold night, who do not have a community of people to lean into or might not feel comfortable being in such a beautiful space when their heart doesn't feel so beautiful. It's a beautiful night, and it's worth pausing to be grateful for all that you have. Remain seated for In the Bleak Midwinter, hymn number 241. Hymn 241. And in that very Christian theme, we're going to invite up Joyce and Melissa to read Luke's famous chapter about the coming of Christmas.
In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be enrolled. This was the first enrollment when Quirinius was governor of Syria.
And all went to be enrolled, each to his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, from the city of Nazareth, to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be enrolled with Mary, his betrothed, who is with child.
And while they were there, the time came for her to be delivered. And she gave birth to her first son, and born son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. And in that region there were shepherds out in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night.
And an angel appeared to them, and the glory of God shone around them, and they were filled with fear. And the angel said to them, "Be not afraid, for behold, I bring you good news of a great joy, which will come to all the people. For to you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord.
And this will be a sign for you. You will find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger." And suddenly there was an angel with a multitude of heavenly hosts praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among good men whom he is pleased."
When the angels went away from them into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go over to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has made known to us." And they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger.
And when they saw it, they made known the saying which had been told them concerning this child, and all who heard it wondered at the shepherds told them.
But Mary kept all these things, pondering them in her heart. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all that they had heard and seen as it had been told them.
It's a remarkably powerful story and a very rare, incredibly Christian moment for our church here. That is the heart of the Christian story right there in many ways. Please join me in "Deck the Halls." Hardly that Christian a hymn, but one of the ones we embrace. 235, "Deck the Halls," as we all know. I had to add a little pagan English revelry there. It's a Welsh traditional song. There's been sort of a war around Christmas. It's sort of part of the broader culture war for what we're going to be as a society. And I sort of took that spirit and I thought, what is the most important part of the holiday? And then I thought I would embrace kind of many of the arguments for what the holiday is really about. So that's what I'm going to do. So here we are. What does this remind you of? Well, it's a chair, yes. How about kids like you? It's a chair, yes. It's my symbol for kids. You know, if you really think about Christmas, and I'm just advocating in this one position, the Messiah story is wonderful, and it's also religiously important, but as obviously has been for about 2,000 years, for me, it's about not one precious child that might fit in this chair, but all of them, right? Christmas is about kids, isn't it? Do you remember how exciting it was? If you're not a kid, do you remember how exciting it was to be a kid at Christmas? Or waiting to open a Hanukkah gift? I bet you do. For all the adults in the room, does it feel different now? I bet it does. I would venture to guess that it would all have passed out of fashion if we adults didn't get to relive the magic of Christmas, watching kids experience all the sparkles and the presents. We almost celebrate Christmas because of kids. Am I wrong? Without kids around to enjoy it, it would all be too much work. I don't think it's a coincidence that on the most precious of days, probably the most sacred night of the year for many people in the world, we focus on a newborn infant, not a coincidence. I think we should use Christmas as the metaphor, or the moment perhaps, to get us to believe that it's at least important to believe that every child is sacred. Bear in mind that the whole reason Christmas chose the phrase "born again" as the goal of religious renewal is because of the obviously fresh perspective that children and babies bring. And beyond that, what Christmas message doesn't have in its call to hold on to our childlike sense of wonder? Right, Barbara? You feel me? Christmas is about and for kids and trying to feel the magic and again through them. Am I wrong? All right. I think that's sweet. Here's my new role. That's sweet. And there truly is Christmas with kids, a kind of a freshness, right? But it's not about kids. I have no doubt about it. Christmas is what's it about? Mostly about gifts. And I don't mean just stuff. Don't diminish it by making it stuff. I mean giving and getting gifts is mostly what Christmas and Hanukkah is about. I know our need to buy stuff always gets a bad rap. Get it? Rap. Particularly here in churches. But gifts are probably the most distinctive part of Christmas and the Hanukkah holidays. Every other holiday has food. Every other holiday has family in it. But mostly the gift tradition is so entrenched in Christmas and Hanukkah, it's what we think of. I bet you spend more time during this season thinking about what to get people and shopping than you do about any other part of the holiday prep. Let's test it. Ask yourself honestly what you spend your time doing in regards to Christmas. Think about that. And I bet it will be, if you're honest, buying and making gifts really is the answer. And what better than where we spend our time and what we spend our money on to deem what's important than that? And you know what? There's nothing wrong with gifts. Sometimes we're sold, get it? Sold. The idea that gift is a new part of Christmas sold to us by Macy's. That's not true. Being generous and giving gifts is as part of the tradition as far back as St. Nick, 2nd, 3rd, 4th century, I can't remember, in the early centuries, who gifted freedom to people by sharing valuable things, pulled children out of essentially slavery. And also the Magi, which we just sung about, from the East. They walked a long way to give what to Jesus? Gifts. Jesus, giving gifts is as old a way to celebrate Christmas as there is. Truth is, we probably don't think of those we love in special enough ways, and frankly, it's nice to give them and get gifts from them. I challenge the person who just said Christmas is about children to go tell all those precious kids that they know that they're not getting any gifts this year, and then come and tell me how holy they are, how precious and filled with wonder they are. I'm tired of people pretending it's about music or the tree or even charity, which, FYI, falls under the gift-giving umbrella too, does it not? Does not charity? There's nothing wrong with garland. There's nothing wrong with the smell of pine. It's all wonderful. And leaving cookies for Santa, which also, by the way, is an attempt at gift-giving, or at least a little tip for the trouble for him coming down the chimney. All that is pretty and all that is important, but the centerpiece of Christmas is the practice of giving and getting gifts. Am I right, kids? Yes. The fact it also helps the economy is just a practical bonus. I'm tired of pretending Christmas isn't about what it mostly, although exclusively, is not about, but primarily about, and that is about gifts. Not true. I like gifts. Trek likes gifts. But to say Christmas is about gifts is a little too commercial for me to be comfortable with. Frankly, a little too much like the rest of the year in our culture these days. For me, Christmas is about an opportunity to get to spend quality time with family. Here's a picture of my mom and my cousin. Here's a picture of my brothers and my mom and I. Christmas is really the opportunity we dedicate to the time we spend with family and friends. Christmas makes people a priority. Or haven't you watched the Hallmark specials on Lifetime? For me, family time and the renewal of those special times in an otherwise busy world supersede the exchange of things and even religious beliefs. People are at the heart of the holidays, are they not? Think about the pang and pain some of you feel for those who are not in this room right now, and tell me it's not about family. Above all things, above gifts, above kids, Christmas is always somewhere where we want to go and who we want to see. But don't trust me. Let's test this. I bet you could tell me where you went for Christmas as a kid more easily than any gift you remember getting, and certainly above any sermon you would have ever heard. And doesn't that really prove it? The fact that every one of you could tell me in a second where and with whom you used to spend Christmas with, especially if it was nobody. And my point is proven. Besides, many of us wouldn't see our relations as often as we do if it were not for this holiday. Here's another simple test of what Christmas is primarily. Ask yourself this simple question. If you could give all the gifts that you got, let's say that you could also go to church. Let's say that you got your faith restored and believe in Jesus in a new way, that he was actually miraculously born today, 2022 years ago, right now. Let's say you had even some good holiday food and had a beautiful tree, but you had to do all that alone. How valuable would any of that be? I bet that unless somebody bought you a car or something ridiculously expensive and valuable, if you would eliminate all aspects of Christmas, the last thing you would give up would be seeing your friends and family. Am I right? The sheer fact that this is the hardest topic to talk about means that this is what matters most in the holiday. Am I right? I have to be a different person, all right? This is my niche. Sure, being with family and friends is an important part of it, but gather with them or miss them and eat and have family rituals. We do all that at almost every holiday. And certainly all hope we can say is that Christmas being about gifts doesn't really need any more advocates, does it? Or advertisers on board to tell us something, does it? Aren't we sold enough stuff? Aren't we sold the need for enough stuff all the time? You know what Christmas is about, the reason? It's the birth of that baby we talk about. The guy who ended up on the cross right here. All the rest of it's fine, valuable, fun. At the risk of repeating myself, let me keep straight that the reason for the season is that tonight we mark the Messiah's birth. But in case it was forgotten, the very root of the name of the holiday we celebrate is what again? Christ. That very title makes the holiday unique, does it not? There aren't any other holidays that have the name written in it. Believe or don't believe that Jesus came from a virgin. Believe or not, or don't believe that Jesus was or was not the Son of God. That's a theological debate. This is simple semantics. What's Veterans Day about? Or President's Day? Or Halloween? You're making it more confusing than it needs to be. We celebrate this baby on this night because Jesus was thought to be so important that it was the moment in time that more than 2,000 years ago, we set the calendar. We reset the calendar. That is the namesake of the world's largest religion. Hello? Let's not overthink this. The answer to this ridiculous question is in the very title of the holiday itself. Jesus Christ Mass. You're right. Jesus' birth is the holiday we here in the West mark for this time of year. And it's also right that family gatherings and gifts are all part of it, sure, of course. But you know where nearly all those traditions originally came from? Where nearly all of the traditions came from? They came from the pagan pre-Christmas holidays that long preceded Jesus. Right, Trek? There it. Jesus' title might be the holiday's name, sure, of course. But as you probably should know, that the backstory of Christmas is seasonal. Long before Jesus as the Son of God existed, it was about light's relationship with darkness and the way that the seasons changed and where the sun was. Christmas is where it is in the Roman holiday. We celebrate this night because of the fact that the Christians wanted to substitute the holidays that celebrated the sun in the sky, with the Son as in Son of the Father. Those are facts, not opinions. Christmas should we, when we have the courage to really peel back the wrapping, get it? Celebrating light over dark. And who came up with that? the pagans who invented the very celebrations that having us meeting so close to the solstice did. Do you think that was a coincidence? Nuh-uh. The pagans were the ones who started lighting all forms of things on fire to call back the sun and building stone monuments. It is absolutely no coincidence that Jesus' birthday is slipped in around the time the Romans used to celebrate Mithras, a god who came back to life, and Saturnalia too. Let's not forget that people noticed and ritualized the sun waxing and waning long before Jesus ever showed up. It's because of this unnameable number of pagans that those things like lighting things, be they candles on trees originally and now just lights in the windows, it's why we do it. The truth might not be the most romantic take on the holiday for those who are in the Western world, but it is the most historically accurate one. There's no need to fight this, and thank God the pagan truths and traditions aren't as jealous as the Christian ones are. And in the plural times when we're all aware of the world's holidays, I think it's cool to have Christmas linked to and fold into habits that are much older than that. Heck, I like to think that Christmas is a perfect act of taking a civilized world and taking on a pagan holiday. So sure, I celebrate Christmas like most of us do. I just do so with an awareness that I'm participating in just one of many light-based rituals around the globe at this time of year. If you want to challenge that, and I hope you don't need to, for obviously, ask you what the most iconic symbol of the holiday is. What's the most iconic symbol of Christmas? Oh yes, it's not the cross, it's not the dreidel, it is a what? It's a Christmas tree. It's not Jesus. And the tree inherited from where? Oh, right, the pre-Christian Germans. Let's just admit it. All the rest is fine, but it's as plain as the sun sets too early this time of year for our liking. Christmas is at least about this being a dark time of year and light being glorious and wonderful and the hope for the future to come. Am I right? I'm right. All of those opinions are valid. All of those are acceptable, and I have no problem with anyone who chooses to see any one of those as the most important ones. However, I do get to share my favorite reason for among the seasons, and it's the man the baby became. It's a little bit like the Christian argument, but not exactly the same. Historically, the story of the birth and the life of Jesus could be argued to be the first wildly popular call for people to shift their consciousness about how to live in a world of peace and goodwill. Don't forget that. No other religion, no other popular religious image offers such a call to loving transformation in civilized times in the same way that Jesus' ministry does. Jesus called us to view the work of the world and our work in the world through a new framework, a call, realistic or not, to shift our paradigm. Though it's true, it's just a made-up date stuck where the neo-pagans from the German times and Roman pagans and a bunch of seasonal holidays fell. Accept that. The reason Jesus' birth is placed at this time of year and not some other demigod or other human is because Jesus symbolized both real justice and a new lease on life. Jesus told and even more importantly showed us that we were called by a religion to live in the world wisely, but do so outside the box of normal reason and compromise. So what I love about Christmas is that the most important religious figure in Western history began as a poor immigrant. Think about it. Jesus, God's very son, to some, comes to us born in a manger, a barn. He was obviously born to aristocrats. He's the offspring of two broke, on-the-run refugees. We too often miss the revolutionary power of the story, and to this day, Christmas gives us a rare chance to celebrate that not only the man, but these core ideals, that the meek shall inherit the earth, pretty good idea, and that the deepest truth is that all the powers and principalities will be undermined by the power of love eventually. I love that. I just do. The real message of Christmas, or the reason we celebrate Christmas, is that it flips it on a head everything we think is normal. Tonight we celebrate that the proletariat win. Tonight we learn that the universe and God sides with the underdog, and in the end, love wins. It's kind of cool, perhaps telling, even a bit ironic. I think we should all put a wry smile on our face to know that the eventual message of the adult mythically born tonight would be to, oh, I know, he would be killed by the authorities, and then he would become their hero 200 or 300 years later to embrace them. Okay, this is me. I like to believe that I've compellingly argued for nearly all the areas of life that suggest that they are the most important part of the holiday. Christmas is essentially about a lot of things. Christmas really is about all the reasons for the season. The fact is, history tells us that Christmas is about baby Jesus and Santa and Hasbro and the Roman god of the sun and Burl Ives and the time you spend with relatives you too infrequently see or those you too frequently see. And obviously it provides us an opportunity to watch a baby being born in a manger become more than a hero. And it wouldn't be same without the kids or Target or Charlie Brown, or a chance to receive and give some charity. And it certainly is about pretty lights, and it's about all the above that cooperates to bring us Christmas. I want you to become advocates that there's room enough for all of us in Christmas. If the famous nativity scene of what Christmas is was representative of what Christmas really is to us, it would be a baby Jesus would certainly be center in the picture. And Rudolph would be there with a bunch of other reindeers, probably have replaced some of the cattle in the manger. Catholic priest John Shea says Christmas that is a mighty mess of experience, tradition, Bible, and imagination. He also suggests that it's more helpful to contribute to the mess than to try to straighten it out. I like that. If we had to create a scene that captured Christmas, Santa would be there, right? And he would probably be sitting there in a prominent, cool place on a big, royal chair, but hovering over his shoulder and maybe out the window behind him would be the Grinch. And in the background would be a TV show playing It's a Wonderful Life. And there would be, out in front would be a wooden sign sticking in the hay that said Frosty the Snowman sweater was sponsored by Old Navy. And there would be a Christmas tree, of course, in the manger. And it would have some serious lights on it. And under it would be a box of frankincense. And there would be some old toy trains. And there'd be an iPod. And Mary, not knowing what was going on, would ask where the wise man found all this stuff. And then there would be a scene of some ancient solstice rituals. The largest of them would be like a Stonehenge thing circling the whole manger scene. And to the right of the manger would be a sign that the manger had been built by a church group with materials donated by Home Depot. In my new Christmas scene, right outside the manger door would be a Salvation Army bell ringer, and it would be Christmas, and there would be just enough room for everybody. And that would be what Christmas is about, right? Amen. Long. Sorry for that length. I had a lot of fun writing that. So we're now Trek's gonna help us here, but we're gonna begin to circle the room. If you're physically able to move, if you're not, you can stay where you are, but it'd be great to circle the center pews here. Grab a candle. We're trying not to put too much candle wax on the floor, so when you light it, tip your unlit candle over the one that's lit. And we are going to light all the candles before we begin to sing Silent Night.
So come on in and gather round. Does anyone not have a candle?
First verse. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant so tender and mild, sleep Go in peace. Walk back out into a deep and cold world that needs your love. I'm going to have Trek extinguish the chalice with these words from Elizabeth Selle Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Let's listen to Jody's prelude with the beauty of these candles in our hands. Merry Christmas.